And in our top business story, for Abu Dhabi to realise and achieve the Urban Planning Council's Vision 2030, developers should focus on developing a resilient and livable city. That's according to leading architects who spoke during the AIA Middle East Building Future Cities Forum. Organised by the American Institute of Architects and Flip-Flop Media Group, around 100 experts and consultants from the architectural industry gathered at the one-day forum and led discussions about key factors surrounding building a resilient and a sustainable city. As per the Urban Planning Council's initiative, the Vision 2030 is based on a number of key principles, which include creating a sustainable emirate that protects resources for current and future generations, supports and enables economic diversification and growth, while raising living standards across the emirate. According to the UPC guidelines, the government aims to ensure factors such as sustainability, community planning and enhancing infrastructure capacity. Speaking during the forum, the president of AIA stated that the demand for sustainable housing in the emirate is growing due to the expected annual population growth of 7.3% over the next few years, as well as a 50% growth in tourism numbers.
It's about creating comfortable places where people are interconnected. I think staying on top of where we're going with technologies is actually a hard task. So I think what we have to kind of focus on is really more how people live and work. Those things don't change. I think some of the tools that we use to do that change and develop, but the human being doesn't change, so we're always constantly planning for that, and I think that part never changes. So I think really it's about creating versatile cities that are, resilient and able to change with the times and adjust.
The responsibility of developers and architects in ensuring a resilient and well-connected community was a key area of discussion during the forum, where speakers stated that a successful smart city is not all related to technology. According to the founder of Naga Architects, who are also involved in a number of projects with the UPC, Abu Dhabi should focus on building communities that surround a common public space that allows harmony and more public interaction.
What is needed is a livable city, is a city that we can, is a layering of the city that happens over time, which, as mentioned earlier, many European cities have that. And they're not necessarily smart cities or. What is needed is how do we tie and design parts of the buildings together. So every responsible designer or architect, when they work on a project, they should see how they connect to his neighbor, to the building next door, to a garden. So I think that is important, and that happens over layerings of different, go over time. It cannot be resolved overnight. It happens after a bit, and we started to see that, as I mentioned, in many examples in Dubai, where you start to see the walk, the beach, box park. These small interventions are now urban interventions. Similarly, we'll start to get that in Abu Dhabi and certain parks and other areas. And once that happens, then the real city starts to happen.
Etihad Aviation Group, EAG, and its airline partners contributed $3.6 billion to Africa's economy this year, while the core operations also support 117,000 jobs and 308,000 jobs through tourism. That's according to a report by Oxford Economics Group. The report highlighted that the core economic contribution of EAG and its partners will be $1.1 billion, while tourism contribution will be valued at $2.5 billion. The core contribution of $1.1 billion includes the impact of EAG's global operations, its capital and spending in Africa, and the operational impact of its partners. Among this, EAG's global operations alone will make a $400 million contribution to the economy and sustain 39,700 jobs this year, mainly through purchases of products and services from African-based suppliers. James Hogan, the President and Chief Executive Officer of EAG, was quoted as saying that many jobs across the supply chain in hotels, ground transport companies, freight forwarders and throughout the tourism industry benefit from the presence of the EAG, with suppliers in these sectors creating many employment opportunities for emerging markets such as Africa. As the number of visitor arrivals carried into Africa by Etihad and its partners is expected to grow to over 3.2 million by 2024, the GDP contribution is set to increase to $5.6 billion and also to sustain 596,000 jobs in the continent. Etisalat reported flat profit for the third quarter this year, coming in below analyst forecasts and expectations. The UAE telecom operator was quoted in a newspaper as saying that while profit for the first 9 months of the year rose by 9% to reach 6.2 billion dirhams, its group profit for the 3 months to the end of September was 1.9 billion dirhams, in line with its net income for the same period last year. It was reported that the figure represented a 16% year-on-year increase, while the profit figure came in below an average forecast of 2.2 billion dirhams. Etisalat, which has operations in nearly 18 countries, was quoted in a statement as saying that revenue across all its businesses grew by 3% year-on-year to 13.2 billion dirhams. This comes at a time when the operator sold its 92.3% stake in Sudan's Kanar for 349.6 million dirhams in August of this year. Etisalat shares closed 1% lower at 19.35 dirhams on Wednesday, ahead of the announcement of the results, while the company's shares are up 20.1% for the year to date. As National Bank of Abu Dhabi and FGB are set to complete a merger by next year, both banks revealed steady profits in their third quarter earnings report, which was issued on Wednesday. NBAD and FGB officials were quoted in a newspaper as saying that their core business of lending remains steady despite the slowdown in economic growth gripping the country. While FGB reported a 31% gain in profit for the quarter on the back of strong revenue from non-core businesses, NBAD stated that its profit was unchanged as a gain in fees and commissions was outweighed by a slight drop in income from loans. It was reported that NBAD's revenue was up by 3.4% to 2.68 billion dirhams from 2.59 billion dirhams a year ago. But customer loans fell by 3.2% to 205.3 billion dirhams at the end of last month, compared with 212.1 billion dirhams for the same period last year, amid an industry-wide slowdown in loan growth. NBAD's acting chief executive Abhijit Chaudhry was quoted as saying that profits were achieved during a period of seasonal slowdown and ongoing challenging market conditions, while they continued to maintain expense discipline along with strong capital and liquidity positions. On the other hand, FGB's profits rose to 1.86 billion dirhams in the 3 months to the end of September from 1.41 billion dirhams in the same period last year. Also, net interest income and Islamic financing increased by 1% to 1.59 billion dirhams versus 1.57 billion dirhams in the same period last year.